Hello everyone, my name is Emma, and this is the most shameful story in my life so far. I think it would be close to lots of girls, as it's telling about my first period. I am laughing a lot remembering it now, but at the time I was absolutely sure that my life was over. Please don't laugh at me. I come from a very religious family, and my parents are never keen on talking about physiological or affective matters. My mom loves me a lot, but I think she was terrified that at some point she would need to talk about periods and sex. I guess she has goosebumps even pronouncing the word, and all things like that. I arrived to my 11 years old, being super sure children come from nowhere and just materialize in women's bellies. All in all, I didn't even bother thinking about puberty or my changing body. One morning when I woke up and went to the bathroom, I saw some strange brown stains down there. I had no idea what that could be and got scared. My first thought was that I needed to ask for help from my parents. But the idea of coming out of the bathroom, going to my mom and trying to explain what has happened to me, including naming my intimate parts, was absolutely painful. Asking for dad's help wasn't even an option. I had no siblings to consult, so even being really scared, I decided to wait, and maybe it would pass on its own. I went to school but really couldn't concentrate on studies. I was just listening to my body and trying to understand how grave my condition was. It didn't occur to me to ask the advice of my classmates. It was still too shameful to mention where the stains were coming from. A couple of times I went to the toilet and saw some new brown stains. I didn't feel bad though, so I thought I could wait for some time before panicking. In the evening came the pain, that awful dull nagging pain that any girl knows. Now I knew it was time to panic. I opened the internet bravely and searched for stomach pain with blood. At 11, I wasn't very strong at anatomy and was sure that stomach was wherever in the belly. You understand that an ulcer was the most optimistic option I got. Okay, now I knew I was going to die, but asking for help still seemed too shameful. I decided to sleep it over, but obviously, during the night, I didn't get any sleep. I went to school all nervous and panicky, because that morning I had checked, and I still got new brown stains on my underwear. My condition didn't get worse though, and I got distracted by my classes after all. Until at math class, I felt something wet and ran to the bathroom. I found Niagara Falls of flaming red blood. I nearly fainted. My hands trembled and I was sobbing hysterically. What I did was run to our nurse's office and claim that I am bleeding. I have an ulcer and I'm going to die. At that point, I was not ashamed to share my problem anymore. At first, the nurse got really scared. But then, as she asked me in detail what bothered me, she was visibly relieved. I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm afraid you are not going to die. You are just having your first period. A what? A period. Don't you know what a period is? She was pretty surprised by my ignorance, but explained patiently what it was and how to deal with it, and also gave me some pads for a start, and explained how to use them. Obviously, the news I am not going to die made me totally happy. But as I was going to leave her, she asked me if I could ask my mom to visit her for a talk, in a private way. After giving my mom news about my first period and seeing her somehow embarrassed, I passed her the message from our nurse. I had no idea what they were talking about, and was just enjoying my newly regained healthy life. Only in several years as my mother was telling me about my sexual life, visibly feeling uneasy about that, she confessed that our nurse told her that making talks on physiology is crucial for teens, and that she insisted my mom would overcome herself and find the way to explain some important things to me. I am thankful to our nurse, as now I understand that there is nothing shameful about our body, and if we have some questions we need to ask, not keep them to ourselves. And also, it is always better if parents answer our questions than any other person who doesn't know us as well as they do. Well, I told you it was stupid. Let me know in the comments if your first period was also embarrassing, and share this story with other girls so that they know there is actually nothing scary about the periods.
story time about how one best friend saved me from the other. The school I went to was a public school that never cared or paid attention to things that went on unless it was brought up to the school board directly. It was sophomore year of high school and I had class with both my girl and boy best friend. The girl's name is Aspen and the guy's name is Nick. Since our teacher didn't care, all three of us picked our seats together. I sat in the middle between Nick and Aspen. Nick and I had known each other since kindergarten, so I was pretty comfortable with his company. I never thought anything of it when he leaned his head on my shoulder or squished my face with his hands. However, about halfway through the year, things started to take a turn. During class, Nick would put his hands on my thighs or he'd lean on me and wrap his arms around my waist. This started to make me feel uncomfortable. We were seated in the back of the class, so no one noticed him making me uncomfortable except Aspen, who had no idea what was happening because I never alarmed her of it. I didn't say anything because part of me thought I was overreacting. After all, he was my best friend. One day, the class was empty because it was a free day, so we could all just hang out in the classroom or the commons. The teacher was God knows where, and Aspen had left to go print something for a different class in the printing room. I was left alone in the back of the classroom with Nick. For a few minutes, things were fine. I knew that Aspen would be back, so I just read my book. Then out of nowhere, I saw Nick stand up and shut the classroom door. Part 2 of how one best friend saved me from the other. I was scared when Nick shut the classroom door, but I tried to ignore him and pretended to keep reading my book. I quickly dialed Aspen's number on my phone and slipped the phone into my pocket. Before long, Nick got impatient with me and ordered me to take off my shirt. I told him no, and that's when he grabbed a fistful of my hair and tried to do it himself. After a minute of struggling with him, Aspen busted through the classroom door with one of our school guidance counselors. Turns out she hadn't really gone to the print room. She had noticed Nick touching me inappropriately and making me uncomfortable the previous day, so she went to the guidance counselor to get help. When I dialed her number, she was trying to convince the counselor, and when she realized what was happening, she put the phone on speaker to prove that I was in an unsafe situation. The counselor took Nick away, and later I found out that 7 other girls had come forward about him. They all said that he was harassing them, but since the school had no evidence, they couldn't expel him before. However, since the school counselor heard what was going on when Aspen put the phone on speaker during his attack on me, they were able to finally expel him. I'll always be thankful to Aspen for trying to help me when I felt like I couldn't do anything.
Hello, my name is Fred. Mine is a story about crime and punishment. I am actually a good boy, but once I became a criminal, and I am not proud of it. At school, I made friends with a group of very cool guys. There were 4 of us. We all made friends since early childhood, and I trusted them blindly. At some point, as we were growing, life didn't seem thrilling enough anymore. We were trying to invent ourselves some dangerous activities, from parkour to extreme acrobatics, but it wasn't what we needed. After some thought, we came out with a brilliant idea. Shoplifting. This thing is really dangerous if you get caught, and as we read in the internet, can even make an anti-global statement, which is kind of cool. We started with small things, like stealing a chocolate bar or a Coke bottle. We did it in a group, trying various schemes, someone always distracting supermarket staff, and others stealing. We browsed specialized forums, and found out there was an entire shoplifters community with elaborate techniques of stealing more expensive stuff. It was more like a sport. Thus, our actions became more elaborate. We didn't do it for money. We had enough pocket money from our parents. We did it for fun and adrenaline. In a couple months, we became professionals. Sometimes carrying out kilograms of expensive food and drinks from big supermarkets of our city. I will not explain the whole technology to you. It isn't right. But point is that you can do it successfully, only if you are sure that your back is fully covered by your mates, and you work as a team. We were quite successful, but the rule of life is that sooner or later, you would be caught anyway. We didn't realize it at the time. That day came unexpectedly. We were at a supermarket at a big mall. It was my turn to get the food, while my friends distracted the security. Till now, I'm not sure what I did wrong. Point is that I was noticed. I put all the stolen products into my big jacket, and accompanied by my team, went towards the exit, where I was stopped by a security guard, who asked me to unzip my jacket. I felt thunderstruck, and all of my feeling of safety went away, as I saw all 3 of my friends running away from me as far as they could. Honestly, I'm not sure what I would do if I were them, but probably I would remain, because I still believe in collective responsibility. I was standing in front of the guard, unzipping my jacket and feeling that everybody was looking at me. I was ready to melt into the ground of shame. The security took me back into his office and asked me why I stole food. If I was in need or hungry. All of a sudden, I understood that shoplifting wasn't cool at all. And it was enough extreme for me, for the time being. I just fell into tears instead of answering. The security guy was very nice, and agreed not to call the police if I promised to give up. He had to call my parents though, who came there absolutely furious, and dragged me home. It took some time to convince them that I was really sorry, and that I learned my lesson. The sad part was that I understood that I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore, as I couldn't forget their turning their backs on me and leaving me alone. I never spoke to them ever since. So my advice to anyone is to think twice before you are going to do something illegal for cheap thrills. It can backfire horribly. If you have an experience like that, you can share it with the guys and they will make it animated. Please share and like my story if you like it. And thank God it's anonymous.